1 year ago, you sent us to Moldova to go very deep into the country's politics and report on the snap elections due to be held on July the 11th, 2021. Many liters of fuel, 16 days and over almost 3,000 kilometers later, just inside this tiny place, we came back with a huge bag of footage both for this series and also for the on-time reporting of the elections at the time. It still wasn't enough, so I took another trip alone later on to gather some more footage, but that's okay. At the onset of this series, I asserted that Moldova is a front seat in the spectacle that capital G geopolitics is. When I started the series, the escalation of the war in Ukraine had not started yet. As time went on and the series progressed, more and more of the premises of this series were proven right by reality. So we're now at the end of the series, where we draw some conclusions which of course are to be revised several years from now to check on whether we're right or wrong. The advantage is that since it took a year to make the series, we also got a chance to take a glimpse into the future. So let's explore. Hello everyone and welcome to the 10th and final featured installment of Knowing Moldova. I said at the beginning of the series that Moldova is essentially a European Union in miniature, and over the course of this series we took you, the dear viewer, to the niceties but also the ugliness of Moldova's capital city, to the Ottoman organized Turkic-speaking but majority Orthodox autonomous territorial unit of Gagauzia, to the separatist so-called Pridnestrovian Moldovan Republic, to the Russian-speaking north and through the honks of the so-called border between the rest of Moldova and separatist Transnistria. With that, not only I proved the mini-EU point, but also hopefully illustrated just how complicated such a small place can be. This series should be seen by and shown to anyone who goes a bit too wide with sweep generalizations, not just about Moldova, but really about any country. Now sure, Moldova is particularly complex since very few countries have a separatist region like Transnistria, but too many intellectuals and/or public speakers routinely engage in sweeping statements about places they know approximately nothing about and where at best they went to have dinner at a fancy restaurant in the capital city's downtown. With that said, as illustrated throughout this series, Moldova has one problem. It cannot function as an independent state. I'm not going to go as far as to say it won't, although I do have that feeling, but present tense is clear beyond reasonable doubt, and the near future is also clear. With an official inflation rate of 32%, so in reality somewhere in the 70s really, as of July 2022, 1 year after the election, there is no way this administration, in which way too many poor souls put their hopes in, there's no way the Maia Sandu era can improve things. Best case scenario, this administration ends up being like the Năstase administration in Romania. Some dodgy but functional privatizations, some looting, two-digit inflation but lower end rather than high double-digit, some progress on geopolitics, well that already happened, and maybe incipient but never finalized steps in the direction of lowering corruption in state institutions. The problem is that Moldova's political class is heavily divided on fundamentals. Năstase in Romania could count that if he loses the elections, which he eventually did, the ones coming after him would not try to reverse everything, just like those before him could count that his leftism would be within reason and not a fundamentally geopolitical one. You don't have that in Moldova. When Action and Solidarity will lose the election, and they will, they'll be replaced by the Russophilic left, and that means a few steps backwards. unless the Russophilic left changes fundamentally, which is unlikely to happen through and through, but some fundamental changes may indeed happen with the rise of the more modernist leaders on that side of the spectrum. But even so, best one can hope is that new crop is quote-unquote centrist on geopolitics, which means the belief that Moldova can function as an independent state. And that, even though doable, would require measures that the socialists would never take. So it's a conundrum, and there aren't many reasons to expect it will be solved anytime soon. All of the bets by the West have failed. The Alliance for European Integration and their successive rebrandings failed. The Alliance for the European Integration was the previous incarnation of the non-Russian, allegedly pro-Western, allegedly right-wing. It governed from 2010 through 2015 and then ended up being subverted by an oligarch who ended up being so terrible, allegedly, that Maia Sandu allied with the arch-enemy Igor Dodon to take him out. Now, you will forgive me if I don't buy the story that Vladimir Plahotniuc was the devil incarnate that warranted such extreme measures. I have yet to be convinced by that, even though I discussed at length this topic with high-ranking officials in both main parties. In any event, the point remains that nominally Western-sponsored forces are failing again. Maia Sandu is either the third or the fourth charismatic leader to essentially go down in flames. Meanwhile, the communists have only burned through two leaders, and one of them would have gone away due to old age anyway. In the background, any and all serious pro-Romanian forces were intentionally sabotaged, in part because they displeased both Russia and Европейский Союз, and by that I mean Germany. When they weren't being sabotaged by external forces, the so-called unionists have sabotaged themselves by being stupid in public or by failing to speculate favorable political moments. It also doesn't help that too many of the so-called unionist circles are populated by people whose brain is in 1991 or so and simply did not overcome the moment. Now imagine Helmut Kohl not seizing the opportunity to run with the Alliance for Germany both in West Germany and the DDR because he was upset over an incident that happened during the construction of the Berlin Wall. So, yeah, that's the political class in Moldova today. The problem is that the time to make a decision will come sometime this decade, and the rest of Europe isn't crowded with enlightened leaders either. That's another reason Moldova is a European Union in miniature. Emmanuel Macron got bribes from Uber to work around the law and allow the American company to simply steamroll over local businesses. The Sandu regime works around their own law in order to allow companies and individuals on the sanction list to continue to do the business in Moldova. And the whole political class allows Transnistrian organizations to undercut Moldova and European businesses through workarounds created by Moldova itself, all while on TV both Macron and Sandu complain about corruption. The conclusion, as far as I'm concerned, having spent a lot of time in Moldova over the last 20 years or so, is that this place will only change by accident. And most of the positive things that will happen here will be happening just like until now, in spite of all of these clowns that run Moldova, and most definitely not thanks to them. I guess the only redeeming quality of this administration is that it is, at least in theory, open to some positive change. But what good is that if whenever it tries to do something, it almost always fails? The Moldovan electorate has been very patient, but how long will that last? Action and Solidarity have a solid majority in the parliament. They have the president and a friendly constitutional court. Most of the things that need to be done are in accordance with the existing laws, so really the only limitation is their own ineptitude. Take for instance this honk. Moldovans can easily get Romanian citizenship if at least one of their grandparents was a citizen of Romania, and that's not hard, roughly 80% of Moldova qualifies. Meanwhile, Romanians can almost never get Moldovan citizenship. Romania's biggest bank is a local one that now acquired the biggest share of Moldova's banking sector too. So the money from Romanian bankers and merchants are good, but heaven forbid they get a say in the election as citizens. It is also harder to cross goods into Moldova from Romania than the other way around. Before the escalation of the war, many small businessmen would simply go through Ukraine and then cross into Moldova because that way suddenly the customs were easier. I'm sorry, but these are things that a government with a strong majority can change within days. Yet it's been a year and the problems and concerns raised by Moldova's biggest partners have largely been ignored. Ultimately, as we speak, the West is trying one more time. It may indeed be the last hurrah, but let's hope I'm wrong. The best that Moldova can hope is to continue to be tethered with Ukraine in all of its dealings with the West. It may be unfair to Ukraine, but life is unfair, and geography is ruthless. That's why geopolitics is a thing. If Moldova manages to navigate the next 3 years without a serious popular revolt and 1991-tier domestic tensions, we will be able to say that at least PAS was able to maintain the peace. I honestly don't think that will be possible. 120% inflation rate is already baked into the cake. There's no way Moldova can avoid getting there, at least for a short while. What is debatable is whether the populace is willing and capable of withstanding that without flipping on the entirety of the political class. It's also debatable which option is better. On one hand, the Moldovan political class obviously deserves a symphony at the machine gun, but on the other hand, the context is hardly favorable for such instability. Ultimately, nobody can claim to know the future, and the decision, no matter how many will for sure claim otherwise, does and will belong to those who live on this strip of land. Democratic theory says that the people are always right. I'm not one of those who believes in democracy or in the infallibility of the people, but given that so much misery has been inflicted upon Moldovans without them ever being asked about it, maybe it will be for the better that at least this time around they'll have a say in it, even if they'll end up making the wrong decision. After all, you can't learn otherwise. So yeah, that's really all I had to say. Of course, I did not say all that needs to be said about Moldova, and surely we will continue coverage from this place. After all, in September, it's likely that I'll get to Moldova again. If I come back safely from Uzbekistan, that is. Speaking of which, send me to the Gulag. But for the time being, for this series related to the election and current politics, that's all. Thanks a lot for watching. Many thanks to all those who supported this effort. I hope you will equally support similar efforts for other places, most notably the Gulag Tour. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all soon on the Freedom Alternative.